He wiped his grease-streaked hands on his worn jeans as everyone laughed. She pointed at the busted engine, then smirked and said loud enough for the entire lobby to hear, "Fix this engine and I'll marry you. Deal?" They all roared. But when he looked her in the eye and said, "Deal," with calm certainty, the room went dead silent, because they had no idea who he really was, and he was about to remind the whole world. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. It was chaos in the Sterling Automotive Tower, investors visiting, cameras everywhere, and the CEO herself, Ava Sterling, looking like she walked out of a magazine cover. She was bold, young, single, and ruthless. Everyone admired her, and everyone feared her. Until Jake Rylan walked in. A single dad, mid-30s, grease under his fingernails, with his 6-year-old daughter Lily holding his hand. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was a contractor, called last minute by security to fix an emergency breakdown in the corporate lobby's vintage engine display. A PR stunt centerpiece. It had frozen mid-demonstration. Ava stepped forward in her signature heels, smirking as Jake kneeled beside the machine. Wait, she said, laughing. "Is this our big fix? We're trusting a mechanic from the suburbs with a $1.2 million relic?" Laughter rippled through the room. Someone whispered, "He looks like he slept in his truck." Jake didn't flinch. "Just show me the problem." Ava raised a brow, relishing the spotlight. "Tell you what," she said, smirking, arms folded. "Fix it. In 30 minutes. No manuals, no tools except what you've got. And if you do, I'll marry you." The crowd gasped, then roared with laughter. But Jake stood slowly, looked her dead in the eye. "Deal." The room went silent. Even Ava blinked. He crouched again, hands steady, ignoring the whispers. He whispered something to Lily, who nodded, and sat near the lobby's bench, swinging her legs. The tension grew. Ava watched with growing unease. Then, click, hiss. The engine purred to life. Smooth, powerful. Ava's confident smile faltered. Jake stood, dusting his hands. "Now, about that deal?" Silence, until one investor muttered, "That guy's got skills." And Lily? She clapped, once. Proud, loud. Ava looked around, cornered, embarrassed. But what none of them knew was Jake had once built engines for the military, and he hadn't come here just to fix a machine. He came to fix his life, and change hers forever. Ava didn't speak for a long second. Then, with a cold smirk to save face, she waved a dismissive hand. "Well," she said, voice sharp, "I was clearly joking. No one marries a mechanic over an engine fix." The room laughed again, but it was nervous now. Something had shifted. Jake didn't respond. He just looked at her like he'd seen this kind of woman before. He had. He walked over to Lily, picked up her backpack, and calmly said, "Let's go, sweetheart." But Ava wasn't done. Not when her ego had taken a public hit. "Wait," she called. "Where'd you even learn to do that?" Jake paused. "Afghanistan, military contracts, 12 years under classified engines." That shut her up. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Behind her, Devin, her VP and ex-lover, scoffed, "Sure, and I'm Elon Musk's cousin." More laughter. Jake didn't flinch. He just looked at Ava and said, "When that system fails again, and it will, you'll call me. But next time, I won't come for free." And he left. Outside, Lily looked up at him. "Did you really mean it when you said you'd marry her, Daddy?" Jake chuckled. "Only if she learns to be a good person first." But Ava couldn't stop thinking about him. That night, she sat in her penthouse, wine untouched. Devin was ranting about controlling the PR story, but her mind kept going back to Jake's eyes. They weren't desperate. They weren't trying to prove anything. He had seen her, not the CEO, not the designer dress, her. The next morning, the engine crashed again. Emergency. Panic. The entire morning demo was collapsing. PR disaster. Jake's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered anyway. A woman's voice, sharp but shaken. "It's Ava. I need your help." He waited a beat, then calmly replied, "Let's make a new deal." She hesitated. "Anything." Jake smiled. This time it wasn't just about fixing a machine. It was about dismantling the walls she'd built and showing her what real power looked like. Jake arrived 20 minutes later, not dressed in his usual workwear, but in a clean black Henley, boots polished and eyes focused. His calm presence unnerved the suits more than the failing engine ever could. Ava stood waiting. No snark this time, no smirk, just tension. She nodded toward the failed system. It jammed again. Live demo in 40 minutes. Jake didn't even glance at it yet. "Where's your team?" "They quit last night," she muttered. His brows rose. "Must be nice to work under you." A few bystanders winced. Ava turned red. "I didn't call you here to be insulted." "Number you called me because I'm the only one who won't lie to your face," Jake said, finally kneeling at the engine. "And that's your real problem, Ava. No one around you's brave enough to tell you the truth." For a moment, she said nothing. Then, "I don't like being wrong." Jake smiled without looking up. "You'd be a better CEO if you learned to like it." Boom. 25 minutes later, the system roared to life again, louder, smoother, better than before. Jake stood, wiped his hands, and stepped back. Ava just stared. "You didn't just fix it?" she whispered. "You improved it." He nodded once. "The original design had bottlenecks. I rerouted the coolant chamber and cleaned up the fuel pressure valve." Devin scoffed from behind. "Yeah, he improved it. Probably just kicked it." Jake turned slowly. "You're Devin, right?" "VP of Operations," Devin said, puffing up. Jake stepped close, calm and firm. "Then explain the 4-line bypass valve I added. You'll find it under the primary throttle assembly." Devin blinked, silent. "Didn't think so?" Jake finished, walking away. Ava followed him. For the first time in years, she looked unsure. "Why are you really here, Jake?" He stopped, looked her straight in the eyes. "Because you're surrounded by power, but no one respects you. Because you're the kind of person who makes a joke out of someone's worth in public. And because someone needs to show your daughter, when you have one someday, that strength doesn't come from money or mockery." Her eyes watered. Barely. But he saw it. "You said you'd marry me if I fixed the engine." Jake leaned close. "I don't want your ring, Ava. I want you to learn how to be worth one." And with that, he walked out again. But this time, Ava followed him with her eyes. And something in her heart had shifted. Because she wasn't the one holding power anymore. He was. The next day, Ava Sterling did something she hadn't done since she became CEO. She went to someone else's house. No cameras, no PR team, no security. Just a single mom across the street watching her walk up to a weathered porch holding a brown paper bag of muffins. Jake opened the door, surprised. Lily peeked from behind him. "Daddy, the engine lady is here." Ava cleared her throat. "I figured you wouldn't let me pay you with money." Jake tilted his head. "No. I brought muffins. Store-bought. I don't bake." He opened the door wider, silent invitation. "Come in." His house was modest but warm. Family photos, hand-drawn art on the fridge, a coffee table covered in Legos. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. They sat. She watched as Jake poured coffee. No expensive espresso machines. No imported beans, just black, no sugar. "I haven't been in a place like this in years," she said softly. Jake smiled. "That's a shame." Then came silence, the kind that doesn't beg to be filled, the kind that feels honest. Finally, Ava spoke. "Do you know how many people actually say no to me?" Jake looked up. "Probably none. That's why you're here." She let out a shaky breath. "Everyone at the company. I think they're afraid of me. I used to be proud of that. But after what you said..." Jake leaned forward. "Ava, you built an empire, but you forgot to build a life. That's why people don't love you. They fear you." Ava whispered, "Do you think I can change?" Jake looked over at Lily playing on the carpet, then back at Ava. "I think anyone who walks up a stranger's porch with store-bought muffins already has." She blinked, caught off guard. Then she smiled, genuinely, for the first time in years. But just as the tension softened, the door burst open. It was Devin, face red, fuming. "You're here? Seriously? You're with him now?" "What, is this your way of humiliating me?" Jake stood calmly. "She's not with me. But you seem awfully threatened by the idea." Devin pointed a shaking finger. "This man is dangerous to the company." Ava's voice cut through the room like glass. "No, Devin, you are." Devin laughed, but it was brittle. "You're making a mistake." She stepped closer. "I already did. I trusted you." She reached into her purse and handed him a white envelope. "What is this?" "Your termination letter, effective immediately." Devin's world shattered in an instant. He stormed out. Jake looked at Ava, surprised. She took a shaky breath. "You were right. I've been surrounded by cowards, and I let them run my life." Jake nodded slowly. "So what now?" She looked at him. Steady. "I'm not joking anymore." And for once, Jake had no comeback, because something real had just begun. Sterling Automotive underwent a transformation, new leadership tone, new community outreach programs, even a company-wide volunteer day for underprivileged youth. But the biggest change? Ava Sterling. She didn't just change her wardrobe or temper her sarcasm. She listened more. She showed up without an entourage. And once, during a lunch break, she sat cross-legged on the lobby floor helping Lily color a dragon. Jake watched from a distance, unsure whether to believe it or not. But the truth came crashing in on a Saturday morning, under a gray sky, when Ava pulled up outside Jake's house in a beat-up Jeep, not her usual blacked-out Tesla. She knocked, nervous. He opened the door, eyebrows raised. "You're late for the engine lesson," he teased. But she didn't smile. Instead, she pulled out a small box. Not velvet, not gold. Just a simple recycled paper box. She handed it to him. Jake opened it slowly. Inside was a single piece of metal, a bolt, from the engine he'd fixed that day. Ava cleared her throat, then spoke. "You once told me that I wasn't worth the ring. You were right. But I've spent the last few weeks working on that. Not just for you, for me. That bolt. It fell out when I first tried to touch the system after you left. I kept it, because it reminded me of how everything breaks eventually, unless someone brave enough fixes it." Jake stared at her. "I'm not asking for a proposal," she added quickly, "but I am asking for another deal." He tilted his head. "Oh?" She took a deep breath. "Dinner, with Lily. No cameras, no mockery, no deals attached, just us." Jake stepped onto the porch, looked at her, hard. Then quietly, "You're serious this time?" She nodded. "For once in my life, yes." Lily appeared behind him. "Is the engine lady going to eat spaghetti with us?" Ava blinked, then laughed. "Only if she gets to help make it." Lily squealed and ran to grab plates. Jake looked at Ava again. "That night, you made a deal you never intended to keep," he said. "But this one feels real." She nodded, "Because now I know the value of what I mocked." Jake smiled softly, then held the door open. And as Ava stepped inside, with no heels, no walls, no ego, Jake knew this wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of something rare, something earned. And the man she mocked in front of everyone. He didn't just fix her engine, he helped her rebuild herself.